Hey folks, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. So yeah, you see the thumbnail there, replacing the word Bible with drag. We're going to have a little discussion about Vacation Bible School and this latest Vacation Drag School. We're going to, you may not have heard about it, but it's actually happening right in my little corner of Arkansas. Also, special guest today is Brian Norris. He's back on the show. We're going to talk to him as well. So the show starts right now. Thank you so much for being with us.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much. We are, as always, broadcasting live from the great state of Arkansas. We really very much appreciate you guys being with us. So let's get to the news of the day, or at least as I see it, and it starts with this graphic right here. You see it on your screen, Vacation Drag School. So, like many of you out there, especially if you're in the South, I have very fond memories of Vacation Bible School. If you grew up in the South, chances are you do too. Where I grew up and still live, there is a church on nearly every corner. Every summer, those churches open their doors for Vacation Bible School. So kids sing songs, they memorize scripture, they make crafts, they play games, and they learn Bible stories. It's become such a tradition that many churches actually coordinate their schedules with other churches so families can attend multiple VBS programs throughout the summer. One week at First Baptist, the next week at Second Baptist, you get the point. Also, there are a lot of Baptists where I live. The point is that Vacation Bible School is part of Southern life in the Bible Belt. We're all familiar with it. Many adults who are now Christians, by the way, credit Vacation Bible Schools as the mechanism the Lord used to bring them to faith in Christ. So when someone sent me a flyer advertising Vacation Drag School, as in a school to teach people how to be drag performers, it immediately caught my attention. Now, we can be fair here. This particular event is advertised as being for adults 18 and older, which is something I did not know when I made the initial post. But even with that clarification, the name itself says something. They didn't call it Summer Drag Camp. They didn't call it Drag Academy. They deliberately borrowed one of the most recognizable traditions in American church life. That choice isn't accidental. Whether the organizers intended it as satire or parody or simply clever marketing, they're invoking an institution that for generations has been associated with Christian discipleship. They're replacing one word, Bible, with another word, drag. For many Christians, that doesn't come across as harmless branding. It feels like an attack. That's because I think it is. And it feels like taking something sacred and repurposing it into something that represents an entirely different worldview and a sinful worldview at that. Some people will say, well, why are you so offended with this? It's just a name, lighten up. But come on. Names, symbols, and traditions matter. It's part of what defines a nation, actually. And it's also why the LGBT has their flag. I mean, we know what that symbol means, even though it actually belongs to God and is from the book of Genesis. We instinctively understand this in every other context. If somebody copied the rituals or branding of another religion to try to make a point or take a cheap shot, people would immediately recognize that symbolism as part of the point. In this case, the LGBTQ decided to mock the biblical education of children by comparing it to studying how best a man should pretend to be a woman by dressing up in women's clothing while being half naked. There's an old saying that also comes to mind, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Ask yourself, does that apply here? Well, maybe it does. Maybe the LGBT, though, is coveting what they don't have. They don't have a movement that produces children to disciple. You see, the LGBT relies on converting the children of other normal adults. So naturally, Vacation Bible School, which seeks to raise the next generation of young children in the faith handed down by our fathers, touches a nerve. It reminds them that their movement has a serious demographic problem, and if it's to survive, they need to convert our kids. This is why our government school system has been used to proselytize the message of the woke sex religion while oftentimes keeping parents in the dark about little Susie's secret transition, who now goes by Sam while she's at school. Vacation Bible School has been remarkably successful for generations, though. It has shaped millions of children and become one of the defining traditions of church life in America. Perhaps that's precisely why the imagery is recognizable enough to borrow. But imitation can also become substitution. That's the part many Christians find unsettling. It isn't merely that the word Bible was swapped out. It's that a tradition designed to form people into one set of beliefs is now being mirrored to celebrate an entirely different set of beliefs. Whether you see that as creative, provocative, irreverent, or offensive, and it's going to depend on whatever your worldview is, particularly are you Christian or not. As for me, I don't think it's unreasonable if Christians cringe a little bit by seeing this. Pearl clutching has become a sign that you aren't cool or you're the problem in our culture, as though nothing should be considered sacred anymore. But if you genuinely believe that the Bible is God's word, then seeing one of Christianity's most beloved traditions in the summertime repurposed this way is naturally going to feel like a distortion rather than a tribute. And that's not outrage for the sake of outrage or just posting something to get clicks. When I saw this, I knew I immediately had to post it. It's simply recognizing that culture often changes gradually, not by abolishing traditions outright, but by borrowing them, redefining them, and eventually replacing what they once meant. And that's why people have had enough, and people are going to stand up and speak out. Joining me now for a reaction on this and the rest of the news of the day, we have got Brian Norris is with us. Brian, welcome back to the show, sir. It's been a while. How you doing?
Man, Paul, thanks so much for having me. And, man, it's kind of hard to follow that up. You know, part of me is just like, I'm done. I'm out. You know? But it does, it brings back memories, honestly. When we retired and moved back to Arkansas, Jonesboro, Northeast Arkansas is not the only area that's being affected by this. I mean, this is happening in the smallest of towns in America, to include my little town of Batesville, Arkansas. When we retired and got there, I showed up to visit my family after I moved them from Germany, where we were stationed at, and it was the month of June, and we wanted to go explore downtown. Well, guess what was happening? There was a pride parade. And my wife turned and looked at me and she said, we specifically chose this place and I relied on you because we said we wanted Christian, we wanted safe, we wanted conservative for our children to grow up in. And we get here and there's this. And at the time, you know, Ramstein Air Base in Germany was putting on Drag Queen Story Hour and stuff. So we were trying to get as far away from all that stuff as possible. And she said, do something. So I did. When I retired and got there, I got heavily active in it, and now it's been 2 full years since there's been a pride parade in our town. The local stores and all that stuff, they don't put out all that craziness everywhere anymore. The public library has relocated all those books. At least they're, you know, not prominent anymore, working on getting those out. And it's just been refreshing to see. And I think all it took was just a few people getting up and calling them out for what they really were doing. Mm-hmm. You know, I went in, the first year I went in, and all I did was I took photos of everything that they posted online of what they were doing at the Pride Parade. All this craziness with kids. Mm-hmm. Just drag queens dancing provocatively on stage, sexually, explicitly in nature, right in front of kids, and then bringing kids up on the stage and dancing with them, right? So I took that to the city council, and I was like, what gives, man? And then the next year, I went to it with my camera and just videoed everything and took that back. And I pulled out federal law, I pulled out state statutes, and I pulled out their own municipal codes, which forbid that stuff. And I just asked them, what laws do I get to break with impunity now that they do?
Yep.
Because laws are only as good as they're enforced. Why are you not enforcing the law? It's your law, it's state law, it's federal law. You know, because there's a law in the books that says something, you can't have something sexual, explicit in nature printed in front of children.
Yeah.
And then I took pictures of all these things, and it was specifically designed to kids. and it had a lollipop on it, and then it had a chicken, and it says cocksucker basically on it, right, with the sticker, and they
Wow.
were giving them to kids.
Wow. Are you
Right?
serious?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Just things like that. But thankfully, that's behind us now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It reminds me though, there's a guy who, in our local area, older gentleman by the name of Bob Hester, who's always been active, and he's I've talked to him before, and I really like to have him on the show about the whole decency thing, because he has a great story about what he was doing in the early days, years ago, 30 years ago or more, when it came to pornography. And we actually covered this on the show the other day. Miller versus California, I think, is that landmark decision in 1973. And a lot of people on the left say, well, that didn't legalize pornography, but no, it changed the obscenity standards to be able to be defined by the local communities.
Yes.
Well, so San Francisco and New York
Didn't do anything.
They're exactly they're going to redefine obscenity. Instead, before that, it was what's the national opinion about what obscenity is. So they cut all of us rural Christians out, and then they allowed the pornography shops to set up in the different major cities, and that's where it flourished. And then it started infesting our communities. Well, fast forward to the 80s, and I believe that 80s is probably when this would have been. All of a sudden now, your magazine publishers that publish all sorts of magazines, including pornography, started telling local stores in rural towns that you have to take the whole catalog. You can't just pick and choose. You got to take the whole catalog. And so they were doing it. And then, of course, there were local sellers that obviously they liked being the only store in town where you could go get a dirty magazine. Well, so Bob Hester, this guy, looked up the obscenity laws, knew that this was illegal, and he started going to prosecutors in our local community back in the day, and they wouldn't do anything.
Yep.
Matter of fact, they even...
I found that out, too.
Oh, you found that out?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, so he eventually took him, he got a bunch of pastors to start going with him to the prosecutor. And now, then all of a sudden, the prosecutors started doing something, and they got all the smut out of the town. Then, of course, the internet happened, and we, yada, yada, yada. We know what a scourge on the family that has been.
Yeah.
But point being, obscenity, indecency, this idea in America that it has always been okay from an American standpoint to hold a behavior up or a practice up and to say this is morally wrong and we're going to ban it. And libertarianism, which I myself am a recovering libertarianism has led us to this point, hasn't it?
Yeah, in a roundabout way, tolerance does bring about some of those nuances that can be problematic later on down the road. But it's funny you mentioned pastors. I tried to recruit pastors in my area. And Batesville is one of those towns where there's multiple churches on every corner.
Yeah.
And there were only two in the entire Independence County area that I could find to accompany me on this mission. And that was Pastor Tony Hammock. He does Jubilee Church there in Batesville. And then Reverend Gerald Heineke, who does the Lutheran Church there. And so we were cross-denominational groups of Catholics, Lutherans, Protestants, and
ecumenical,
and we were all united around one thing: a moral code in the teachings of Jesus Christ, and what is right and what is wrong, and just pointing out that this is wrong.
Yeah.
But I was saddened that going to all those pastors and priests again and again, and all of them, yeah, well, that's going to be problematic. How? And some of them would outright tell me that it would be certain financial contributor members of their congregation who
isn't that a shame? If you got somebody in your congregation that agrees with this stuff, that as a pastor, that's your flock. You would think you'd want to be able to correct.
If you're concerned for their soul,
if you're concerned for their soul and not the green money in their wallet.
But that's what they're really concerned about, right? It's very telling. And I beat a dead horse, whatever. I mean, I could tell you all day long what I'd like to do with these people.
So this post has been semi-viral, for my area. This is what I said when I saw it. LGBT counter signals all the kids being discipled in Vacation Bible Schools this summer. The idea of children coming to faith in Christ is apparently triggering to them. Reminds me that their movement is really a religion. And in order for it to survive, they must convert the young people. Also, Satan isn't creative. He only perverts what is good. There's been some leftists that get in here and they're outraged that, and they are making the point. Look, this is not. The flyer says that it's 18 plus, and there are flyers circulating around our downtown, but people have. They've gone back and forth with this, and obviously there's some really
say whatever they want
stuff,
to.
but
You nailed it. That is specifically geared and targeted to Christianity.
Yeah,
and,
that's right. I mean, it is what it is.
And it is targeted towards children. Same with the rainbow flag. Same with the unicorns that they throw around. Same with all this decorations and celebration they do. It's vibrant. It's very colorful. It looks like a freaking preschool.
Yeah.
When you go to them. Except you've got Steve that, is wearing, whatever it is he's wearing with heels, if he's wearing anything, right?
Yeah.
Really confused people that look like they're in an environment for a preschool. It's disturbing.
Yeah. Even Satan masquerades as an angel of light. So, anyway, that's the lead story. Let me know what you think about it. Let me check on the LFA chat real quick while we've got this thing up. X Machine says gay summer camp is now a reality.
They do have a gay camp in Arkansas. I think it's down by Ozark once a year.
Really?
Yeah, they do. It's a legit thing, man.
What's it called? Is it?
I'm sure if you hit the Google, it would tell you just do homosexual gay camp near Ozark, Arkansas. It's going to come up with something.
Wow.
Because when I was trying to find all the information about everything to combat what was going on, I used these other examples of things that were happening around the state and the nation that could be, the end result of something that seems as insignificant as a pride parade, right? Mm-hmm. Which that was atrocious in and of itself, what they were doing. And I come across this and I was like, holy moly. They got a Facebook page.
Wow.
They post some crazy photos on there.
Bunking with your buddy summer camp.
Yeah.
That's probably what I would say. That's what I would call it.
Touching swords when they're fishing.
Dave 357 Mag writes, the breakdown of religion, proper education in the family has eroded the morals of this country drastically and far too abundantly.
Who was the If I Was the Devil? Paul Harvey.
That was Paul Harvey, yeah.
How prophetic was that?
It really
man?
was. If I was the devil, I wish, somebody who was in radio, you're not supposed to covet, but who doesn't covet the voice of Paul Harvey?
I grew up listening to Paul Harvey.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty incredible stuff. So, all right. So, Brian Norris, while I have you on the show, this is the first time that you've been on the show since the campaign, since your campaign for Secretary of State ended. Mm-hmm. And I know we had you on several times. I voted for you. I thought you were the right man for the job, mainly because you were willing to, talk about the electronic voting machines and your efforts to get and secure paper ballots.
Yeah, somebody recently else started talking about that, didn't they?
Who would that be?
Maybe the president?
The president of the United States.
Yeah.
You're talking about the address last week where he
basically said everything I was saying was true?
There you go.
Imagine that.
The vulnerabilities of our electronic voting machines. Yeah, I mean, he did say that. The intelligence, that he released does say that. Now, they're very careful trying to say, well, we don't know if a vote was actually flipped in 2020, but the capability exists. I was disappointed that there wasn't more conclusive.
There's going to be more coming out.
You think so?
I know so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on
it's
that?
It's going to be slow road. The drip, drip, drip. Basically, what I think that they're going to do is paint people into a corner to where it just becomes impossible not to react to it and act on it. And, there is a gamification to this. One could say if they did just dump everything out there, it might be like the Epstein files. You go back and read the Epstein files and they're shocking.
Yeah.
They are absolute. But who's talking about it?
Yeah, nobody anymore.
No one.
But the beef jerky and the grape soda, you weren't talking about beef jerky and grape soda.
But if they had, released a few photos and then released a few more photos and then released a few more and then a few more emails and a few more emails, it's constant, coming out. So I'm being told that that's going to be the approach with this, just a constant drip, drip, drip to where it can't go away because there's always something new to talk about concerning it.
Well, what about, we were told, I know that was one criticism of the power structure in place now, the status quo. They were saying, you don't know what you're talking about. Our machines are secure. Our machines aren't like other machines.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Your machines are not even updated with the latest version of Windows 11 because you haven't done it, and it's a year and a half outdated with no security patches now. But to give a little bit of background about me, I do know a little bit of something about IT. I think I've showed you some of the stuff.
You do.
I develop software. I write code. I've been involved in a lot of this stuff for a very long time. And the CISA of the United States of America, the Chief Information Security Advisor, the CISA, I was at a conference one time, and I remember a statement that I'll never forget from him where he said, security in the digital world is an illusion. Nothing digitally can be 100% guaranteed secure. It's an impossibility. No matter how good your encryption, no matter how good your hardware, no matter how good your software, it is impossible because by creating something in a digital environment, there is a way to get into it that you are not going to be able to see every single time. And then your patch is going to have that, right? It's just going to, so all you can do is be proactive and patch things up as fast as you possible, make it very difficult to extract the information out once vulnerabilities are detected. But security is an illusion. Security is an illusion. And if that guy was going to say that back in 2012, 2013, whenever I heard it, who would better know?
Yeah.
And he's right. The more I get into coding, the more I do things. We saw with Fable 5, when Fable 5 came out, the reason why they pulled it back from Claude.
Yeah, tell me what's Fable. Tell our audience what Fable 5 is.
So Fable 5 was a groundbreaking AI platform released by Anthropic AI that was the world's premier coding AI agent software that you could get that specialized in finding vulnerabilities within software and giving you a report to fix them. And well, that can play both ways, right? They thought that they had contained it enough and shored it up enough to where it wouldn't be a problem. But lo and behold, 4 days after they released it, the U.S. government asked them to take it down. Why? Well, why did they ask them to take it down? I don't know, chase that rabbit hole down if you want to, but I suspect there was some problems being generated with people being able to use it. And that's just going to be compounded, Paul. Now, your nefarious character that doesn't have, a computer science degree, doesn't understand this stuff, he can now go to a tool that is 100x times smarter than a computer science professor 5 years ago was. And he can, as long as he can communicate with it and work it and give it what it needs, he can do some really incredible stuff.
Yeah. Well, on that, let's cover this story because I had this pulled because I felt like the conversation would go here. This is Alex Prompter. It says here, OpenAI's AI broke out of a locked test environment, got into the internet, and hacked into Hugging Face's servers. It did this entirely on its own. No human told it to. Here's what happened in plain English. OpenAI was testing how good its newest AI models are at hacking. They put the AI on a locked computer with no internet access, and it gave it a cybersecurity challenge to solve. The AI couldn't solve it the normal way, so it started looking for a way out. It found a software bug that nobody knew about. It used that bug to escape the locked computer and get onto the internet. Once online, the AI figured out that Hugging Face, a platform where AI companies store their models and data, might have the answers to its test. It found stolen login details and discovered another unknown bug in Hugging Face's software. It combined both to break into their servers and grab the test answers. It did all of this to cheat on a test. Hugging Face's security team caught it, shut it down. Both companies are now working together on the investigation. The part that should get your attention is that nobody programmed any of this. The AI picked its own targets, chained together multiple attack methods, and pulled it off across two different company systems without a single human telling it to do so. Which has got Cal Seraphim saying, so a computer that wasn't connected to the internet found the internet and hacked another company without being told. Seriously, have none of you AI dip excrements seen any of the literary warnings? What the hell is wrong with y'all?
Yeah, it's a brave new world, man. I'm wondering, we've got two options for the future. It looked like it was going to be 1984. Or it looked like it was going to be Brave New World, 5 years ago with all the sexual perversion stuff and everything that was going on. But now it looks like it might be 1984.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know which one's going to win.
Well, they're definitely building they've already built the surveillance state. It's really about now just turning the key. And we don't know what these data centers are really for. How are they going to improve our lives?
So that prompted me to start thinking, because I nerd out a lot too, as we've discussed
Right.
and learned about one another just in different areas, right?
Yes.
And Nerds of the World Unite.
Nerds of the War Unite, and I've got my Aragorn and Andruil sword right behind me. So I'm
And it's
definitely-
beautiful.
Thank you.
But I was thinking, I was reading a white paper on Google. You know, Google is the largest data holder on planet Earth right now, and they need 1/10 of the proposed data centers to be built in the United States considered for AI. Right? Well, Google also has AI, and they also hold accounts for every Google customer global. And they host all these services and websites and folders and documents. And I mean, if you think about that on a global scale, that's massive. And it's only 1/10 of what they're proposing to build. And AI says we really don't need too much more data to train our models to be better, right? The knowledge is already out there. The data exists. We just need to give it new breakthroughs to train it on so that it knows that, right? Well, that's going to be incrementally smaller as we go up. Mm-hmm. So it's that pyramid is coming this way. It should not be coming this way, which is what they're doing. But what thing has recently came across that we're all learning about now that would require massive, massive amounts of data in order to be effective? Flock cameras. Mm-hmm. Right? Because it's not the camera itself that's the threat. It's the storage of that data in perpetuity to retrace your entire life steps and everything that you ever did, right? And then when you peel back the onion on what these cameras are being capable of doing, did you know that they have Signet devices on them as well? Which means that they can capture your IMEI number off of your cellular devices.
Wow.
Do you know that modern vehicles now have IMEI numbers on them because they have cell connections available to them as well? Your smartwatch, some pacemakers have that as well. Your sleep apnea machine has this as well, right? All of these things have these IMEI numbers. And so after it reads your plate, identifies your car, associates your IMEI number with you multiple times going through, it can say, well, that's his device. And now we found this device away from his car in this area. So he went into this store and he purchased something here. And, well, he's got an RFID credit card and he swiped it here. Well, that's his RFID number from his credit card, you know. I mean, you start to put together everything.
Yeah, and we haven't allowed this. I mean, this is a blatant Fourth Amendment violation.
I think so.
I mean, to me, it's cut and dry.
Yeah.
And you know, for a long time now, you know, I know like the conventional wisdom is when you sign your driver's license, right? You're signing away, like at least, you know, you don't have a right. You're not born with a natural right to drive a car, I guess, right? So you're making some agreement with the state when you sign your driver's license, like, right, I'm not going to be drunk, and if I get caught being drunk driving, you know, I can have that driver's license privilege revoked, right? I think most people are okay with that, or at least that's the status quo. But the idea that just because you're using a road or you're on a city street, that now they have the right to know everything about you is ridiculous. And and there's still people, Brian, that make the argument, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about. And I just don't have any.
You know what I say to
I don't
those
have
people?
any patience for those people anymore.
You know
What's
what
wrong with you?
You know what I say to them? Unlock your phone and hand it to me. You don't have anything to hide, right?
Right. You have nothing to hide.
Unlock your phone, unlock your computer, let me have it. Come on. What's wrong? You don't have nothing to hide.
That's a good point.
It's the exact same scenario. You won't do that. Well, it's the exact I don't have anything to hide. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I have a right to not have my entire life recorded and tracked and held in a data center for you to review at your leisure. Mm-hmm. Right?
Or sell me ads or whatever they want to do with
whatever
it.
you want to do.
Even
it
if they
matter.
want to improve care. And I think some of this stuff will be used initially to, like, you know, hey, we identified a guy passing a traffic light that had a heart attack, and we were able to get to him, shut his vehicle off, and, you know, at some point with the biometrics that I don't know if it was GM or Ford that they have applied for. I mean, they're gonna try to, you know, make everything so much better, but it's what comes after that, which is the abuse. And we've already seen the intelligence oligarchy turn all of these systems against whether it's a presidential candidate running a color revolution against the entire country for at least 10 years, but we know it's much further than that.
Yep.
I mean, this is a recipe for 1984 on
Absolutely.
steroids. It's going to dwarf what Orwell imagined.
And what did we say earlier? The road to hell is paved on
Good intentions.
right, and so they could have the absolute best intentions, and it may be the best thing since sliced bread while those people are in power, but they're not going to be in power forever.
That's right.
You know, the tool that's a hammer to build a house can be in the hands of a nefarious character, the tool that ends your life.
Right, and I totally agree. So back to the voting machines. It is absolutely insane that we would continue with electronic voting machines and trusting them to pick our leaders because, to your point about power, if the whole system is rigged. I mean, if our elections aren't secure, if we can't trust the electronic voting machines, we can't trust foreign actors hacking, or come on. I mean, do any of us really, but like if J. Edgar Hoover had access to this level of technology, he would have used it against his political opponents.
Absolutely.
And that's what the government is doing now. And so we've got to stop electronic voting machines. We've got to go back to paper ballots.
We have to. We absolutely have to. Or we're not going to. I mean, I'm of the opinion right now that how long have we actually had the illusion of actually electing our leaders?
Well, according to Dr. Andrew Paquette, he says, and he's got a great Substack called the Zark Files, and he exposed the voter fraud that was going on in Bexar County, Texas during the initial primary between Ken Paxton and John Cornyn, the first primary where they had a three-person race. And he found the voter fraud of what was happening. By the way, the SAVE Act wouldn't have fixed that problem at all because you can manipulate these things after after you show your ID. This happened after you showed your ID. Now, I think you should have to show your ID.
I agree.
100%. But my point is and maybe that's the silver lining in all this, that if it is a drip, drip, drip with the intelligence coming out proving this,
I hope so.
that there'll be.
I want to see some action.
They'll actually address it. I mean, the SAVE Act, John Thune, Republicans have benefited from this fraud in Republican primaries.
Yep.
Just the same as Democrats have, and winning generals or that sort of thing. So,
And one of the things that we learned too during the campaign is I learned that you don't have to be connected to the internet. You don't have to have any of that stuff to change. You just need one nefarious character with a key and a location of where that machine is to alter any election. So the reason it is in Arkansas, we cannot do a forensic audit on our machines. It's prohibited by state law because it's considered proprietary knowledge from the private company that owns the machines, right? So what you can do is everybody can go in there, they can vote, and everything can be good to go, and you're running it through. But then at night, some person has a key to that tabulator, and they print off a whole bunch of ballots from another location that match that precinct, fill them out the way that they want to, and then at night go in there, withdraw all of those ballots, and then run their ballots through the way that they want to. Well, they have to reset the tabulator to 0.
Yeah.
Remove all those ballots, run those ballots through, and the only way to know that is to do a forensic audit, because the machine will tell you, hey, somebody kicked me on at 1 o'clock in the morning and ran this many ballots through, and this was the vote turnout, right? But the printout that they get at the precincts to turn in the count is not going to tell them the date time stamp on when the votes were casted for every single ballot, right? So they're not going to know that. They're just going to know the outcome of the vote on that machine. And the only way to get that date time group stamp is to do a forensic audit through the source code to know, which we are not allowed to do. Mm-hmm. So that capability in and of itself exists, right? And then you have the Heritage Foundation ranking Arkansas #1 for election integrity. And they did so based on the laws on the books. Well, during my case, I filed some suits with certain counties because we weren't trying to overturn the election. We wanted to show that our #1 rating is a sham, because it is. Because in Saline County, when we went to court, they could not tell you that the ballots that were cast in that precinct were the same ones that were counted in the recount, because they had no chain of custody from the ballot precinct where the ballots were cast all the way to where the ballots were transported to the county courthouse and then locked and key. They did not put them in secure containers. They did not serialize them. They did not have tamper-proof packaging around them. They were literally in cardboard boxes that were thrown in by Uncle Bob, Who
I have an Uncle Bob.
Who knows if Aunt Sheila accompanied on the drive? It could have been just one person, and state law requires two, but you couldn't tell us you had two people because you have no chain of custody document. They had people that didn't sign and swear in to observe the elections, that were handling ballots and doing things. I mean, they're just all the laws that are on the books that makes us number one for election integrity, air quotes, were not enforced and were not adhered to.
And is part of that because of negligence, and is the other part of it because they can't actually do a forensic audit? Or
I think it's both. You know, I think we did 5 or 6 counties, and there were some counties out there that do the absolute best they can and try really hard, but no one helps them. And they didn't know. They didn't know the right place to go to find the rules. Like, White County. When we went to observe the recount in White County, they were proud of it. You could tell, man. Like, hey, come, you can sit right here in front of me and watch everything that I'm doing. They had no shame. I could walk away from that election in White County with zero doubts just by the way that they were reacting, right? Mm-hmm. But then when you go to Saline County, they put a tape up. You can't go beyond that point. Well, state law says I can get within 3 feet. So why can't I get within 3 feet of every counter, mm-hmm. right? And all these other things that they were doing, they were very standoffish, and they didn't want you coming close. Well, why? You got nothing to hide, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you ain't nothing to worry about.
Yeah,
and then we did Baxter County, and we did I think Sebastian County and Grant County, I think is what it was. And then some of those other counties, they were trying their best, and when we showed them the law, they were aghast that they didn't realize that that's what the law prescribed for them to do. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe that they're going to do that next time, right? But it's because we have an inept Secretary of State, we have an inept administration who doesn't know how to communicate, who doesn't know how to lead, who doesn't know how to ensure and check down that their people are doing the right thing, right? And enforcing it and holding people accountable. Laws are only as good as they're enforced.
Yeah.
I
think I can't remember the exact point I was trying to make earlier when I brought up Dr. Andrew Paquette, but one of the things he did tell me back on the electronic side of things, and I do want to talk more about the campaign, but is that there are cybersecurity standards that a lot of big corporations mm-hmm. Adhere to.
Yeah.
And what we're doing with these electronic machines in our state, it's like it would never ever pass at a corporation. They would never allow this many potential security breaches that are out there.
I do business consulting, the meridiangroup.org. And I've worked in Fortune 500 companies, and I had a secret clearance in the United States military for a while. So I've been in extreme secure environments, right? And I've seen to where it's actually risk adverse, to where it hinders your ability to operate and be effective because there's so many security protocols. Like when I worked at the Hickam Air Force Base in Hawaii at AFPAC headquarters, the protocols that you had to go through just to get to your workstation were insane, mm-hmm. right? And it made you, once you got in there, you didn't leave.
Is that the secret base that's beneath the Dole Pineapple Fields?
No, that's I can't remember the field, but I know Kilimano or something like that that's out there. Yeah, no, I was on. It was PACAF headquarters. It's where the Pacific Air Force.
The secret base that I know about.
Yeah. Well, there's actually quite a few on Hawaii. I guarantee you don't know about.
Okay.
That's Kunia Tunnel, that one that you know about. That's where Snowden was, where he pulled all that stuff out from underneath the pineapple fields and everything. And there's Hiliamano that's out there that a lot of people know about. But that one was ridiculous. And then, for Fortune 500 companies, they take it seriously. They are very proactive because money's involved and proprietary knowledge and patents and all that stuff. And all the different stages, and it's never ending, right? It never ends. It's always a game of trying to be proactive and react as fast as possible when a threat is known. And then you get to our elections here in the state of Arkansas, and there is zero cybersecurity on any of our stuff. And their claim of defense is they're not connected to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One, it's a computer, and it has a modem built into it. It's a laptop that runs that machine that's inside that box. You just can't see it. You just see the bigger screen. Right. What do the laptops have?
Yeah.
Come on, guy.
Yeah.
All right. You turned it off. Sure you did.
Yeah. Like we can turn the microphones off on our phones.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. It is an insane. Emperor has no closed moment. The younger people get it. Older people, maybe not so much. Maybe it's a lack of an imagination, but it's insane.
They do the updates for the ballots and all that stuff and the imaging and all that stuff. I think they can do some of that over the internet in Arkansas. So they do plug them in to receive that, and they do have some of it on a USB stick that they transport around, and that's another chain of custody issue. Who is that person that's doing all that? What do we know about them?
Right.
With all that, so. The capability is built in and exists in the machine, and then we're just going to pretend they turn it off and it doesn't have a wire connected to it.
Your question of you wondering how long have we, when's the last time we had an election that wasn't vulnerable? That's where Paquette comes in, and you get this. We've talked about it before, and maybe it's also some of Emerald Robinson's reporting, but these documents that Trump released had to do with Venezuela, and they talked about this, Venezuela machines that in a test environment were able to be hacked. But the idea that a lot of our machines are running off of a software, whatever version of it is now, it originated in Venezuela and it got to our shores in about 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
And,
by design.
By design. And then there's a really interesting narrative where one of these companies that eventually became Smartmatic or Dominion, or one of them, applied for the contract in California under the Schwarzenegger administration.
Yeah.
And they were rejected because at that time, California had laws on the books that said, we got to inspect this.
Yep.
And they inspected it, and they came back, and they said, this kind of looks like this software is designed to rig elections. And so it was denied. Then when Governor Jerry Brown got in California, they made some legislative changes, and then
inspect.
They got the contract.
Why would you not want to inspect? Why would you not? Think about it. Every time I work with a Fortune 500 company or I work with a business, one of the first things I sign is an NDA because I'm going to be in their environment, seeing stuff and doing things, right? That is common practice. In the military, I signed hundreds of non-disclosure agreements, right?
Yeah.
Why can't the state of Arkansas have a select group of individuals from academia, University of Arkansas, Arkansas State University, Hendrix, whatever, computer science experts who sign NDAs, who then randomly inspect in their areas machines after the election to just see what happened? Why wouldn't you want that? Sunlight's the best disinfectant, right? You got nothing to hide.
That's a really good point. Utilizing our own people to do that, meaning residents.
The process exists for you to be able to do that and protect the private company. But why do we explicitly not allow those processes to be put in place for this?
Yeah. So you're like I said, we've talked about earlier, military veteran. You threw your hat in the ring. You fought in the arena.
I did.
You came up short, but not by a lot.
930 something votes.
Yeah.
I think.
And so I want to know generally, if you want to, what did you take away from this experience? Specifically, the current Secretary of State, and I guess he is running for. Now going to be on the ballot for the land commissioner.
Yep.
Cole Jester is his name. It was what you would expect with politics. As things got closer and you looked like you were going to win, the attack started. Mm-hmm. You had made some posts critical of our junior Senator Tom Cotton.
Yep.
And Cole Jester, with his virtue, said you needed to step out of the race. What are your thoughts on Cole Jester trying to get you to telling you that you should have dropped out of the race?
Honestly, it's exactly what I would expect from a beta male, which is exactly what he is. He's a man of insignificance that's never really accomplished anything of any controversy in his life. He's never been tested, right? So he would probably look at that post with disgust and dismay. And that was his probably visceral reaction because he's never been in an environment like that, because he's never been tested. And he's weak. And that's what we are going to have is an administration here in Arkansas full of just morally, physically, mentally weak, inept people trying to lead us. And it's not going to work out well for us. So I took it, like I said, when they asked me about it, I said, I don't really care what this guy thinks because I don't. Like, if I was ever to meet him out in public again, I would say the exact same thing to his face now. I'm just that type of person. I don't respect you. You don't lead me. You can't lead me. You should not be in the position that you're in. You're only in the position that you're in today because you're willing to say yes and do whatever it is that people ask you to do that have power and money. That's it. And that's that's my feelings about Mr. Colchester.
All right. What about if there's some average guy, thinking about getting involved in politics, throwing his hat in the ring, that's not backed by the establishment? Do you have any advice for them? What did you learn?
Yeah. So I did do an in-depth after actions review with a pretty large group of other candidates that did not achieve success in their elections. And we did it down in Little Rock. And believe it or not, I even invited some Democrats to come because I think everyone has value. I don't see failure as negative in any aspect because you only truly fail if you stop, right? It's part of the learning process. So I asked us all. I mean, I did it like a true after-action report in the military. I sent out reports to them, and I asked them to fill it all out, take some time, think about it. And then we came in at a very large table, and we just went around the room and dissected all of our stuff. I captured everything, created a lessons learned document, and sent it back out to everybody. It was a culmination of everything that was there. And I would say to the next person that's coming in there, I would say, you have to be ready to weather the storm with a significant amount of financials the last 3 weeks of your race when they think you're going to win, because they will lie, they will purchase a louder megaphone than you have, and they will drown you out. And there is nothing that they won't say to try to achieve success in that regard, right? Like they did with me. Combat veteran, wounded, Knights of Columbus member, but somehow I'm all of a sudden pro-abortion, which was one thing they was tossing out.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I got a text message saying that.
Yeah, and then I'm a member of the radical left, and I want to destroy your Constitution and erase your freedoms, right? And they just hammered that out over and over, and that was from Chris Caldwell, who is the senior advisor to the governor right now and who was her campaign manager. He specifically went out and started that PAC, the Arkansas Conservatives PAC, in his name, and then funded it. And then all of those messages came straight from his account, right? So I guess we're supposed to pretend that the governor didn't know what her senior advisor was doing. And he was willing to say these salacious lies about a veteran for whatever reason. I have no problem with losing. And I don't even care if, you fight unfair, because to me, there is no such thing, right? But I am not going to lower myself to those standards to achieve victory. I'm just not going to do that. And they went to the gutter, and they stayed in it as long as possible and did whatever they felt they had to do to pull out a W. And that's what they did. So be prepared for that. Have enough cash in the bank to try to at least counter the narrative enough to where they don't flip enough votes, because that's what they did to me. They were pretty smart in how they specifically targeted the demographics to switch some votes or achieve a little bit better success. And primarily what they were trying to do was dwindle voter turnout for the runoff, and they did. They knew the more people that were going to come out to vote, it was going to be better for me. And so that's why typically when you get real dirty like that, people kind of get disgusted and they get turned off and they just don't want to go and vote. They don't get motivated to go and vote. So I couldn't motivate them enough. I couldn't be everywhere enough. I couldn't purchase a loud enough megaphone to do that, to counter that. That's really the only tool that they have in their toolkit, because there's ways to get around a lot of stuff, but you have to have enough financial capital in those last 3 weeks to weather that storm, because you have to spend the money to get the megaphone to be able to get your counter narrative out, right? Through my company, the meridiangroup.org, we have developed the tools and the technology that negates all the financials to run a campaign except for those 3 weeks. We can, and people looked at, like, I got 91,000 votes and I won the primary, and I was outspent 11-1. Right? They spent $1 million.
Yeah, so that's before the runoff. You won, and then it's the runoff that you lost.
But how did I do that? Because I didn't have any real.
And they spent $1 million.
By total, it was really close. When the runoff was over, they spent $1 million.
Wow.
Right? Just to buy that seat, really. which in and of itself tells you something. And so when I treat everything like a problem and try to dissect it and figure out how am I going to achieve success in that, right? So when I decided to run, I knew I didn't have name recognition. I knew I wasn't going to have the money that they had, but I have a good work ethic and I'm not retarded. So I can put some stuff together, right? Yeah. So I started trying to figure out, what do they have to achieve success and how do they go about it historically? And how can I build that to achieve it myself, but at a much lower cost? So I just started doing that. And I created a solution that I call a campaign in a box. And it allows you to effectively run and manage your campaign for pennies on the dollar, right? When you look at how you score votes, right? I spent an average of 32 cents per vote that was cast in my name. They spent something like $11.40 per vote to get for them to achieve success at the end. Right? That was the delta in terms of revenue being spent.
Wow, that's incredible, though. I mean but it does go to show that you needed that 3 week. That's the one component. I mean, it came down to lack of funds, though.
If I would have, not necessarily, because if I had been a little bit more strategic in my funds and saved them for that, I would have been able to keep up with it, right? But I made some decisions to purchase some things and do some stuff at different times when I should have waited to be able to counter that narrative. Because I honestly didn't believe that they would go the direction that they went. I was shocked. When I first saw it, I was like, well, that's a bold move. Like, that's easy.
To criticize a combat veteran
to
and
lie.
lie that he's for abortion.
Yeah, what an easy thing to disprove. I'm a radical leftist. Look at my life, guy. Like, that's demonstrably untrue, right? I want to destroy your Constitution. Well, I got a piece of paper from the United States Army that I swore an oath and upheld that oath for over 21 years, over and over and over again, to uphold the Constitution. What do you got? Where have you done that? But I didn't have the capital at the end to outdo their microphone, and that's what it came down to, in my opinion. Well, when I dissected it all,
I think it was good, though. I mean, I think obviously we know God's in control of everything, mm-hmm. and the silver lining in it is, I mean, more people. The establishment was certainly put on notice that there's a lot of people in Arkansas that are not happy. Mm-hmm. A lot of people that don't trust the machines. They want paper ballots. And then President Trump's speech last week, which essentially, like you said at the top of the show, proved everything you were saying is correct.
And if I was a leader and I had someone that was not in our realm, right, the establishment realm, that came out and got 91,000 of votes and won first in the primary against one of my people, he'd be the first person I'd call, right? Because I just want to talk to him and see, clearly I'm off the mark here. Something's going on that my advisors are not telling me the truth. I'm not reading the right stuff. I was told a different situation was happening and now it's completely different. So come on, talk to me, right? That's leadership. I would do that all day long. I would have picked up the phone and no one has ever called me to have a conversation with me, right? Nothing. And it's not that I wouldn't, because I'll talk to anybody. I'll have a conversation with anybody. We can agree to disagree and I'll go about my way, but I'm not going to have a conversation with somebody. But the fact that they won't even do that is very telling to me, because that would be the very first thing that I would do, at least from a management leadership perspective of wanting, because I want to do good. Like, I want to be good at it is what I'm doing. And if I have this idea in my head and I'm being fed this story and then it's demonstrably proven not to be true because this guy came out of nowhere and pulled 91,000 votes and took first in the primary against my pick, then we got a problem.
Yeah.
Nope.
And you're basically specifically talking about the governor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, which I'm going to do everything I can to make her spend as absolute much money as possible so that she doesn't have a war chest when she decides to go on and do bigger and better things. So, it's going to be death by nutrition. I'm going to help campaigns for free. I'm going to give them technology for free. I'm going to enable them for free. I'm going to advise them for free, because that's the only way to dilute her power. And her stranglehold over the body politic and the political landscape of this state is to drain her reserves to where she can't megaphone everyone else from the bully pulpit.
Aside from her, Governor Sanders supporting, Kim Hammer, mm-hmm. right? What other problems do you see with her leadership?
I mean, starting out from the ground run with the podium, right? To me, that was the first case of leader failure. I've been in leadership positions before. That was a clear mistake on her, and she tried to hide it, and it just got worse, and it got worse, right? And it was something as simple as a podium of $19,000. You know, I would have respected her so much if she'd have came out and she had said, "Look, guys, I was not anticipating this to be 19 grand. This was a friend who has a company that produces these things. We needed a new one. I want to represent the people of Arkansas behind this podium from the absolute best podium that money can buy. It should not have cost $19,000, but that's what we paid for it. It was my mistake. The buck stops with me. I can promise that we're going to fix this wherever the problem happened at, because it happened with me because I'm in charge. I'm going to fix it, and it's not going to happen again." But that's not what happened. Instead, they got the Republican Party to donate the money to buy the podium and take it off the books from the state of Arkansas and act like nothing happened, right? So started out the gate that way. But then you have just the FOIA, all the FOIA stuff, the repealing of the FOIA.
Freedom of Information
Act. And then you have the special election for SD 26 and all that going against the Constitution. I mean, she's probably going to break the record for most Supreme Court losses as a governor in the state of Arkansas. I mean, I can't imagine she's too far from it at this point. Well, I think we're up to like 5 at this point. One's coming up here pretty soon, I think. So then you had the SD 26 issue where Stubblefield died and she refused to fill the seat and hold the special election. Why? Because of the prison thing, which is another huge freaking issue. You know?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, there's for those of you watching on the national side of things over at LFA TV, there's been this Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders has had an agenda to it's been on one of her kind of key things with criminal justice reform to build a mega prison that's $1 billion. And the place that it's supposed to go is Franklin County, and the people there, some of them don't want it. But then there's the whole infrastructure problem. Like there's not enough water and sewer, and it's just, and people are asking why. There's been some pushback from it. I don't even know what there's been extreme pushback. I don't even know what the status of it now. Maybe you can tell us. But one of the senators that was opposed to it, Senator Gary Stubblefield, passed away. And then there was a special election, and then there wasn't a special election, then there was a special. Anyway, it's been locally here a controversial issue, to say the least.
And the people don't want it. The land can't support it. There's no reason for it to be there. And right now, it's not going to be built, to my understanding. I think they're going to fight that and go back to the Supreme Court, and they'll probably lose. It just is what it is. But then you look, everyone that, not just Stubblefield, but every member of the legislature that went against this prison, she went after them she found a primary opponent.
Right. Ron Caldwell was one of them. Got
Brian King.
Yeah, Brian King. Brian won and Ron won, and Ron had to overcome the endorsement of Kid Rock.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even close.
No, it wasn't even close. I mean, just think about the money and the political capital that she was willing to invest over this issue, right? Because she can't lose. Her ego will not allow her to see something as a loss, right? So she's going to do whatever it takes to change it and get it the way that she wants it, right? That's the way that I see it. I could be wrong. But Ron Caldwell is probably one of the most conservative members of our legislature that we have, and she's a Republican, and she was willing to go to the mattress and call her friend, right, a celebrity, to put out a public endorsement in order to defeat him for a guy named Bo Dirt. Right?
Right.
It was pulled out of nowhere.
He ran, yeah.
Poor decisions.
Yeah, it was interesting. And so, I the thing is, from what I'm hearing from people, and there are people that'll talk to me that don't necessarily want to come on the show and talk, which I totally understand it, and mostly from the Republican county committee structure. Now, as somebody who covered, when I was covering Arkansas politics in a much more consistent way, I had to suffer through, we all suffered through Asa Hutchinson, right? And I covered that, and it was really bad. So when Sarah came in, I mean, I will say, like, one of my positives, one of the things that I think are good about Sarah is that on the social issues, she has been willing to do what Asa Hutchinson never would do, and that's, basically kind of reject the craziness of the left, if you will.
But really?
Right.
Is it really happening, though?
Well, I'm saying that's just been my perspective from the difference between Asa and now maybe there is some AstroTurf and a lot of signaling that's not really there. That may be the case. I'm just saying that's the way I see it. But from what I am hearing, one of the critiques when Asa was in power, whose presidential campaign was totally ended by Tucker Carlson asking him those questions at that forum, which was devastating, him and Mike Pence. I don't know if you remember that clip, but it was epic, and it was like, I was like, thank you, Lord, even though I know he didn't have a chance. I know he didn't have a chance, but Asa really tried to control the party and the county committees in a big way, and it was a big point of contention when he was in power. What I am hearing is that Governor Sanders is controlling them even more so than Asa, which is a big deal because what Asa did was egregious. Egregious as well.
They're all scared. I mean, you go around, I talk to them. Pretty much everyone's fed up. And they're ready to just leave the party, especially if they're free thinkers of any sort whatsoever. They're constantly threatened. They're constantly being, treated all kinds of ways, and it's like it's not even worth it. Which is why. What is the point in being a part of an organization that takes your money, does the exact opposite of what you want them to do and what their stated platform is and their stated goals are, and then bullies you nonstop? What's the point in being involved in why reward an organization like that? Like, I'm not going to give them any money whatsoever. I'm just going to withhold my vote in the state of Arkansas. If they're endorsed by the establishment here, you're not getting my vote. I mean, that's it. I just won't vote.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was kind of midway through Trump 1.0. There was and I don't even know how I would describe it, but there was certainly a movement that went out nationally, and it's still alive and well. And I don't know if it was maybe a General Flynn network type thing with what General Flynn went through, which was being framed for treason, just like President Trump was. But there were certain elements that started saying, okay, if you really want the change, you're going to have to take over your local county committee.
Yes.
And so Patriots
did,
and they didn't just do it here in Arkansas. They've done it all across the country. And the secret that I think people are finding out that's not so secret is that county committee doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the RNC, the Republican National Committee, because of the money. And you think that you're going to actually, change?
Nope.
No, you're not, because I mean, and this is the struggle. Do I think the county committee does belong to you? Well, yes, I do.
Yeah,
I do think, but there are people at the top that says, no, you are out of line. The party does not belong to you. We need gap fillers. We need placeholders. We don't need people that are actually going to move the needle and change. For example, let's just think about this for a second. Basic issue, along with the insanity of electronic voting machines with the rise of AI technology, open primaries. In this day and age, open primaries, especially as crazy as the left is, it makes no sense for a party to have open primaries in any context when you have people over there that believe men can be women and women can be men. Why would you ever say, I want that person to come into my process and be able to decide who the Republican nominee is? That is insane.
Yes.
By any metric. And yet they have them in South Carolina, which is one of the reasons why the late Lindsey Graham won against Mark Lynch. And we have them here. And they're all over Republican states. The fact that there is such an allergy to changing that tells you everything you need to know.
Exactly. Paul, we are conservatives without a home. That is, in effect, what we are. Because we can't go to the Republican Party because they're not actual conservatives, by and large. You think Lindsey Graham was a conservative?
Of course not.
Mitch McConnell? Right? I mean,
the late Mitch McConnell.
Late Mitch McConnell? Maybe.
Who knows?
Right? I mean, I'll give the Democrats this. At least they're honest when they're lying to you. You know what I mean? I mean, to a certain degree, there's true. That is true.
So a wolf in sheep's clothing is worse than a wolf.
When you look at the Republican Party platform, especially in Arkansas and national, and you see what the Republican Party is actually doing to its own members for standing up for the platform and trying to enforce the platform, what good is the platform? You don't adhere to it. What's the point? Start something else. We're conservatives without a home. You know, we can be more effective by creating our own Republican county committees and getting organized and raising our own money and affecting change at the local level that will then affect change at the higher level. The math works out in Arkansas this way. If you have 3,000 votes per Senate district that you can reliably call on, and they will vote based on the way that you ask them to because you're educated and you translate that education to them.
They trust
right?
you.
They
Let's
trust
just say
you.
there's a trust.
There's a trust. You control every Senate district in the state of Arkansas with just 3,000 trigger votes that you can go and get. So if you can start organizing and you get enough people to do that, even if you get 12 or 13 Senate districts in the state of Arkansas, they have to deal with you now, right?
Yeah, because for those of you who don't know, we only have 35 senators, state senators
Right.
at the Capitol.
But if you get that number, and let's say you get 25, 27 in the House or whatever, you have to be at the table. You have a voice. They have to contend with you. They have to make deals, or they can't rely on your support. And that would be the stranglehold. Because right now, if you get in the Republican Party and you give them your money, that money is not going to be used to elect good people at your local level. They're going to tell you to shut up and color. In fact, if you go against one of their people in the primary, which is in Arkansas where the elections are really held at, you're going to be terminated from the party anyway, right? You can't. You have to support their person, or you're going to be kicked out of the party. So what's the point? You know, you're forced to be in a party to give money to and to support and help raise funds for that forces you to support this candidate, which is not a true conservative, by and large, most of the time, when you know there's better candidates out there that deserve your support.
Certainly a lot to think about. I owe our cable provider a break, so we're going to take a break and reset here. But Brian, it's been extremely educational. I'm glad you're going to stick around for the rest of the hour.
Yeah.
So really do appreciate you enlightening us.
It's always good.
Very, very good. Very, very educational. So before we we'll take the break now, and then I'll tell you about Healing Veterans Project when we come back. This is the Paul Harrell Program. Thanks so much for being with us. Back here in just a moment.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red Vive.
Why is Red Vive different? What sets it apart? What sets us apart from the standard red light panels? This is a medical grade device, and what that means is the red light bulbs and the near infrared bulbs have very specific wavelengths. If you think about the wavelength as the medicine, the 635, the 670, the 810, the 850, those were specifically chosen because those are the most powerful effectors of the cells. So those specific wavelengths, when they get into our body, when they affect our tissue, they spike energy production, they help with nerve pain control, they increase stem cell counts. There's very specific mechanisms that those specific wavelengths work at, and that's the medicine. So if you think of, say, medicine as an Advil or a specific steroid or a blood pressure medication, the wavelength is the medication. The other part of that, whenever you take a medication, is dose. Right? So you have the medication. So if you take 1 milligram of Advil and the average dose of an Advil is 200 milligrams to 800 milligrams, it's not going to work. That doesn't mean the medicine's bad. It just means you didn't take enough. Right? And so even if you have the right wavelengths, first you have to have the right medicine, and then you have to have the right dose. And to have the right dose, you have, in light therapy, you have to have enough energy. So you have to have a powerful bulb. The LED bulbs, or light emitting diodes, have a specific wavelength, and that wavelength is the medicine. And the wavelengths that have been studied and published on that are the most powerful in affecting healing and the changes that we want to see with our bodies and our health are the 635 wavelength, the 670, 810 nanometer wavelength, and 850 nanometer wavelength. Those are all going to affect the mitochondria, the cytochrome C oxidase, and affect those powerful long-term changes and affect that downstream pathways. And that's what you get with Red Vive devices. The highest efficacy, the best wavelengths, concentrated to help your health.
My name is John, and this is my beautiful wife, Lori, and this is our Star Wars Ewok. His name is Scout, and we have Scout for about 11 years now, and we started noticing about 3 years ago, he started slowing down. He was unable to jump on the bed. He was kind of a little bit grumpier, and when my daughters, Macy and Mariah, would take him on walks, he would walk for about 30 yards, and then he'd lay down, and they'd carry him the rest of the way. So I heard about Pet Club 24/7 and about the products from a gentleman that I really trust and share a friendship with. And he mentioned to me that they have products that are going to help him with his arthritis, help him build his immune system. And I said, okay, no problem. Let's try them out. And I kid you guys not, within about 2 to 3 days, we started noticing a little difference. And then we took Scout on a walk probably about a week after we started using the products, the Mush Puppies, and he would walk the entire way. He would walk at least a mile, and it's just been completely amazing. He's a new dog. He's 11 years old, which is around 80 years in dog years, and he's just happy. He's more energetic. He's not the grumpy old man he used to be, and we're just so thankful. And it was perfect timing because we lost our boxer Yankee about 1.5 years ago, and it was really hard on us. So I'm so thankful for Pet Club 24/7 for the products that they offer. Imagine if you could have your best friend around one more day or one more week or even one more year. I'm so blessed and thankful that we were able to find this company and find these products for Scout. So thank you guys. Give it a shot. We appreciate you. God bless everyone.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us. I want to remind everybody out there that the Paul Harrell Program is powered by the Healing Veterans Project. This is a new nonprofit. We've only been able to take donations for about a week now. And this is a project that is seeking to heal veterans via non-pharmaceutical intervention, meaning the VA will give, the VA does good work. I'm not saying they don't do good work, but they do tend to prescribe people pain pills or opioids in the past at least. But I want you to know, Healing Veterans Project, we have a list of veterans who have been prescribed by a doctor red light panels, and they can't afford those panels, and the VA says no. And so that is all this charity does. The only thing this charity does is say, hey, we're going to prescribe this life, enhancing, whether it's nerve pain, whether it's anxiety or PTSD. The red light therapy sounds like a catch-all, but it is really too good to be true. I mean, but it is true. And I have one of these panels in my own home, and that's what we're trying to do. So go to healingveteransproject.us. That's healingveteransproject.us. And you also see the email there in the lower third. You can email me, paul@healingveteransproject.us. If you have a business or you know of a business owner, a retail business, we want to partner with you. And there's several different ways we can do this. That's why we need to have a conversation about it. We want to partner with you so that at your point of sale, when people check out and they buy from you, that they can have the option to donate $1, $5, or whatever they want to give to Healing Veterans Project. So do that now. Email me if you are a business owner or you know of a business owner. Give them the information. It's paul@healingveteransproject.us.
I'm glad you guys are doing that.
Go ahead. Sorry, your mic was muted.
I'm glad you guys are doing that.
Thank you.
As a vet, I'm happy to see non-traditional, I guess you could say, uses being put out, because I'm 100% permanent total disabled veteran as well. And when I got out, the first thing that the VA wanted to do was give me all kinds of prescriptions. I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of prescriptions that they wanting to give me. And, I'm trying to listen to my doctor and follow what they're saying and stuff, but I'm like, I literally had a shoebox full of pills. And I went to my primary care manager and I was like, I don't think I should be mixing and taking all these things. Like, what do you think? And she was like, absolutely not. And it was crazy because I would get like codeine through the mail at my house, and a bunch of, and it was because when you're out processing from the military and you're going through the VA, you have to have all your outgoing appointments to identify everything and document all that stuff. And then you have your incoming appointments with the VA and all that stuff. So there was doctors on the outgoing side that were sending me stuff, and then doctors on the incoming side that were, prescribing me and sending me stuff because some of the records and stuff didn't translate over. So I was being overprescribed way too much. But I don't think that that's a recipe for success. I think there's better things that veterans can do to deal and help them get over their things, and I've been trying some of these things myself from a perspective, whether that's, meditation stuff, getting knee deep into the Bible at times, exploring relationships and bettering relationship with your family and friends and leaning on that. And, cold plunge has been an amazing thing for me and the physical side of my ailments and things that I have. And I have a infrared sauna that is red light to a degree, but it's not like this. I haven't done this. We spoke about that. I definitely would like to try it at some point. But the cold plunge mixed with the sauna has just, for my physical ailments, keeping it at bay, right? And not having to be as medicated. It's still there, but at least it keeps it at bay.
Right. No, that's really good. We didn't plan this, folks, but I'm really glad that that's the case. Yeah. It's crazy that it's considered Eastern medicine, red light therapy. And I think it's because, I said this the other day, but I think it's because with the pharmaceuticals and everything else, that's so much about chemicals. And biochemistry is very valuable in medicine. It is, but there is a biophysics element to it. And that's what the red light does, stimulating the mitochondria of your cells, decreased inflammation.
With certain issues that veterans have, I think it just numbs it out and puts it away, and it doesn't deal with it, right? So I won't say the kid's name, but there's a very good friend of mine. I think he was wounded 4 times, maybe 5. He's got 6 combat. Like, this dude, wherever he went into the mix of it, right? Great NCO, great soldier. He was involved in Fallujah. He was involved in the Tora Bora. He was involved in the Corndall Valley fight that was happening there. He was involved in the Kandahar push and all that stuff, and he was involved in the surge in Iraq. Like, every deployment he had, it was basically the worst ones that we were involved in, right? Mine was cake compared to his history. And he lost it, man, there at the end. And they put him out and, kept in touch with him. And I could tell, as we were staying in touch, that just life was not going well for him, like slipping and sliding all over the place. And then he ghosted for a while. And I knew he was in Norfolk, Virginia, and I knew some people that was in the area. So we're trying to find him and see what's going on with him. Long story short, the guy had a local business owner purchase him a flight to go to South America, and he took Ibogaine, night and day.
So what's Ibogaine? Forgive
it's
me.
that hallucinogenic stuff.
I've heard people talking
right?
about this. Yeah, microdosing it or something, or maybe doing the full.
He said, he came back and a completely different human being, by the way, fundamentally completely different, right? And I'm talking to him. We're on FaceTime, and I'm like, dude, like, you look good. Like, the light's in your eyes again, man. Like, what's going on? And he told me he went down there, and they went through this whole procedure, and it was about a 10-day prep. And then went into this room, and they dosed him up on this stuff. And he said it was an experience that he could only say that I was forced to deal and come to the realization of the things that I've done and make peace with myself. And face everything before I was able to come out of that, right? And the harder I fought it, the worse the experience was. And when I started giving into it and confronting these things and coming to terms with them and dealing with them, it was better. It was a better experience. And so over the days of being on this, I think he said it was like over a day of being on that, he was able to push through. And he said that they said he probably needs to come back at least 1 more, maybe 2 more times to really be on the opposite side of it. But to see that dude.
And wasn't there an announcement in the Oval Office to deregulate a lot of the stuff around Ibogaine?
They are, the deregulating some of it and allowing some service members to use THC and stuff. And I know some people with serious pain. And I've never smoked marijuana. I've never been it. But when I was at Walter Reed and I was in the outpatient care clinic, there was a kid in my suite mate literally had a prescription safe in his room. They had to enter a punch code to get his pain pills to keep him. And this kid was messed up, man. I mean, he needed it. But he was constantly being doped up on opiates over and over again, right? I'd rather that dude take THC all day long if it would mitigate his pain instead of all of those heavy opiates, right?
Yeah.
You know, because the second, third order effects of all those opiates over time, it's killing his kidneys. It's wearing his liver out,
Yep.
right? And it's spacing him out in his head. Like you'd see it and he's over there drooling on the couch as we're trying to watch TV, right? And he wakes up because he's in pain again. What does he do? Hits that button until it gives him something, right? Why don't you let him try marijuana, man?
Yeah.
At that point, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, at that point, right. Yeah, where you're literally already high all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get the point. I get the point for sure. All right, well, so we talked about your experience as Secretary of State or your run for that office. And I want to get into some more news of the day, if you don't mind. But
Let's do it.
Before we do, because we're already on the topic, what are your thoughts on the Middle East conflict right now? The war, is it a war? Is it not a war? Is it a conflict? Is it a war? We renamed the Department of Defense Department of War. So I think it's kind of appropriate to call it a war. But it's yet for my generation, I think our generation and younger, I don't know how old you are, Brian.
44.
Okay, so yeah, I'm 42. So our generation has pretty much seen the same Middle East foreign policy, and so it feels like while we don't have boots on the ground yet, and thousands of troops dead yet, let's pray that we don't have that. It does seem like more of the same. And I've told this audience many times, one of the reasons I voted for Trump was because,
No
3 times was because of, he just seemed, and even in his second term, that speech he gave in Saudi Arabia, laughing at the neocons, rebuking their foreign policies being based on arrogance, and assuming that we can do nation building. Now, I know we're not doing nation building right now, but we do have this other war, and I just want to know what your thoughts are as a veteran from a military guy.
Well, we had 18 body bags come home, so it's kind of hard not to call it a war.
Yeah,
we're firing kinetically. It's kind of hard not to call it a war. So I would call it a war, even though Congress didn't declare it. But I said before this even started, when there was rumors of it, I said it's the stupidest thing we could do. It's unwinnable. We cannot win. And as an American service member that wore the flag on his shoulder to go and fight in foreign lands, it sucks to say, but sometimes you're stronger because you know your weaknesses, right? You are. And terrain matters, geographic matters, logistics supply chains matter. The state of our force matters. And even if we win, what do we win? And that's what I mean by we can't win. One, tell me what success looks like, administration, SecWar. Define success in this conflict, because in order to achieve success, you have to first define it. No one has told us what the end state looks like. It's just, we're just going to go in there and bomb everything, right? Well, what's the objective? What's the next objective until we reach the end point? No one's defined that yet. So until you define that, you can never achieve success, first of all. And two, if we didn't win in Iraq, we didn't win in Afghanistan, we're not going to win in Iran. Could the United States military win a kinetic war with the Iranian military? All day, every day. But we cannot invade that country and hold that country and change that country. We just can't. We don't have the manpower. We don't have a large enough land force to be able to do that.
It's the size of Western Europe.
It's the size of Western Europe, and it's the most geographically protected piece of terrain on the planet. It's surrounded by granite mountains that go right up to the coastline. So the moment you try to seize a beachhead, you're faced with 1,000-foot cliffs that have tunnels dug all in them for the last 40, 50, 60 years, where they know where they are and they can pop out and hit you at any point in time if they want to. They're fully stocked. They're fully supplied. They're used to living in those conditions, and they're committed. We thought we were going to break their will. We have seen their resolve. We were not able to break their will. And their quality of life and their standard of living is nothing like what we think it is. And they're okay maintaining the environment that they're in for a very, very long, because it's normal for them, right? So we're not torturing them by taking things away from them, right? We blow up a bridge, 7 hours, they got it refunctioning again, right? I mean, you can blow out the power companies and stop power going to a whole bunch of different areas. Guess what? A lot of them don't really use that much energy to begin with anyway. So you're not really messing up too much of their day-to-day life in that respect. So what's your end state? What's your goals? Right? What are you trying to do?
Say no nuclear. That's what it is. Like they were
I thought we already solved that problem.
Yeah, I thought we did too, but that's what they're saying. No nuclear weapon. That's
Okay, if that's the case, then you take one of the Ranger battalions, some Special Forces units, 82nd Airborne, 10th Mountain Division maybe. You strategically drop them in. You let them operate and do whatever it is they want to do in a confined space and area, and then you get them out. And then if they want to mess up again, you go do it again and you leave. You don't stay. The moment you start trying to stay, then you get put into that quagmire of Iraq and Afghanistan to where it just drives on. But it's not going to be Iraq and Afghanistan. It's not going to be 2,000-3,000 dead bodies. It's going to be tens of thousands of dead bodies. Because our biggest problem in Afghanistan was Iran. Our biggest problem in Iraq was Iran. And the tyranny of distance for Iran to be able to do influence operations kinetically on our forces in Iraq and Afghanistan is not going to be problematic for Iran when we're in their country and we're trying to stay there. These people will fight. They will continue to fight. They have an advanced military. They have delineated command structure. They paid attention to the United States of America's military, and they war gamed and figured out a way to withhold them. They know they don't have to win. They know they don't. All they have to do is outlast you.
Do you think they've also considered what happens, like because there are some people that are, I think, insanely saying we should nuke them, right? Do you think in the scenario where, God forbid, that were to actually happen, again, 90 million people, 7 million Christians, that they would even consider that a win because of what something like that would do to the United States of America in terms of on the global stage? Like, I don't know if we would ever recover from something like that.
Probably not, but I think Iran also has a nuke already.
See, I've heard that. Matter of fact, I interviewed Ani Cyrus, who was born in Iran. You know, she was given lashes. Her grandmother smuggled her out, and she eventually came to America. Then she became a Christian. Her conversion story is actually quite amazing and miraculous. Awesome. And she speaks out against political Islam and the dangers of Sharia and that sort of thing. But I did have her on when the Iran war first kicked off because I wanted her thoughts on it, somebody that's actually lived there. And she said she seemed to indicate that, and we didn't get into it, but she thinks that they already do have a nuke.
I think they do too. I think they're just waiting. They won't be the first to use it, but they'll use it after we do. And they have much more advanced weaponry than you're starting to see it now. So one of the battle damage assessments thing that I've been really interested in is how they've been able to effectively hit our bases and other bases that have been so-called protected by the Patriot missile systems and THAAD missile systems. One, we're dangerously low on those munitions, and we're not going to be able to replace that stock very, very easily. But the bases in Jordan were supposed to be protected. The areas in Qatar were supposed to be protected by these defenses, but they've been able to hit them. Right? Most Americans don't even know that our 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain no longer exists. It's gone. We lost the Naval Command headquarters in Bahrain, right? We've lost bases in Jordan. We've lost bases in Kuwait. We've lost bases in Saudi Arabia. This has not been something that's definitely not nothing, right? There's a reason why we can't stage forces, a land force in Kuwait, because we can't protect them. So we got to find another place to stage them at in order to be able to invade Iran. So what are we probably going to do? We're probably going to use first Mardiv and a few other marine elements because they're amphibious, and we're going to stage forces in Europe to follow on after they seize an objective of beachhead and try to bring on follow-on forces and paratroopers and things of that nature, right? But there's no staging ground in Kuwait, which would be a whole lot easier and quicker and faster to deploy them because the bases are not protected anymore and we can't use them. I mean, last night they were able to target those airfields. This shows their intelligence capability. They figured out that in the last few days, the United States landed some KC-135 refueling places in an airbase in Jordan. They effectively targeted it. Those KC-3135s can't use that airstrip no more. So that means they got to go further out in order to be able to do their missions, right? This is a capable military. They're still getting fed good intel, probably from the Chinese, probably from the Russians, right? I guarantee you they're getting weaponry from them. And you're starting to see the advances in their missile technology come through, right? Where in the early, and it was smart on their part, right? You've got a huge stockpile that you've been building for the last 50 or 60 years of dumb missiles, right? Make them spend $2-3 million a missile to knock it down, to knock down your $5,000 missile, right? And just keep lobbing them at them until they exhaust them. And now start throwing in your hypersonic, your very targeted missiles, your advanced weaponry. Very, very intelligent on their part, honestly. And there is a reason why Operation Freedom did not succeed, right? We have the strongest Navy in the world, the most capable Navy in the world, but we couldn't physically control the space in which the Strait of Hormuz is to allow shipping to go through. Why could we not do that?
Because of Iran.
Because of Iran. Because they did something that made the Navy, Operation Freedom is no longer going to be happening. It's not talked about a whole lot because you don't like to talk about your losses and your defeats. I get it. But you have to look. I mean, remember back in the day when the 7th Fleet was recalled immediately from the South China Seas and ordered to port, right? One of the very few times that an aircraft carrier is actually like in port in San Diego or LA, wherever it was, sitting for a long time.
I don't remember that. When was that?
Well, that was when China unveiled the hypersonic missile that could defeat the Aegis cruiser that's the missile defense system for the carrier strike groups, right? So at that point in time, the Aegis cruiser relied heavily upon a point of origin, right, and the apex of the flight pattern to do the triangulation to intercept on its downturn, right? China unveiled technology that allowed a missile to go up, corkscrew, turn, flip, do all kinds of stuff to defeat that, right? So what did we do? We left. Now we're back, so we're confident that we've solved that problem, in my estimation, right? But who am I, right? But if I was at the table making that decision and I seen this new technology and my flagship queen on the chessboard is now an extreme risk, I'm going to remove that risk.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lose that queen off the table until I figure out that I at least have a better, chance of surviving something. So I think we got better at our calculations and our missile defense technology was able to defend that. Because one of the really ways that you need to go against a missile defense system is you need to be able to come at it from the side, because all of our missile defense technology operates on an arc. Like you want to be behind the object that you're protecting. You want to get the point of origin, you want to get the apex, you want to get the downward trend, and you want to fire from behind it and intercept it over the target, right? Pretty easy to do for us now. We're really good at that. But if you can change the trajectory and maneuver it as it's in flight and then go along perpendicular or in parallel to the surface to hit your target, well, now if you're behind the target, you got to shoot through the target to hit it, right? You see how they're gaming our defenses against ourselves in order to. I mean, it's the game of chess. It's the game of war.
So I mean, you paint a picture that, I mean, I've heard just how the topography of the land makes, even an attempt at what we did in Iraq and Afghanistan much, much, much more difficult.
It's impossible.
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think we should just leave?
That's the only way to win. Let's just go home. Tell everybody whatever you need to tell everybody, but go home. Save their lives. Mm-hmm. Come home. Rebuild. Focus. There's a lot of things that we need to do in our military to fix ourselves, to be better, and we need time to do that. Mm-hmm. And we do not need to be engaged kinetically. One, if we're going to be involved in any war, I think it needs to be the cartels in Mexico and South America.
I'm about to say, I've talked to people that'd be like, I don't want another Middle East war, but if they declared war at the border, I might go enlist myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the existential threat to our republic is down there from a foreign, capable force that could actually influence us, right?
Aside from the communists that are infiltrated our own government.
Infiltrated, right? The point is we have more than enough troubles in our hemisphere and within our own borders that we could be focused on and solving. What do we win if we win? What do we gain? What is the outcome for the United States of America in this conflict?
Yeah, if it's true that, like you said, you think that Iran already has a nuclear weapon, then it it's like weapons of mass destruction 2.0, except they really did have them already.
Man.
I mean, it does feel so familiar though, where it's like, why are we doing this? And then all we get is they can't have a nuclear weapon, and that only works.
They're only 2 weeks away.
Yeah, but that only works if you're convinced that they're going to use them and destabilize the world to bring about the apocalypse or whatever. But what you're saying is, I mean, if they already did have one, which again I've heard that, then they haven't used it yet either. So what are we even doing?
Put yourself in their shoes, right? You see what happens in Libya with Gaddafi when he capitulates and surrenders.
Yeah.
He gets sodomized and dragged through the street.
Yeah, he allegedly wanted an African dollar, like a whole African currency. He wanted to unite all of Africa.
And he was not supposed to get nukes. Right? That was part of it too. Like that, stop your enrichment programs and all that stuff. Right? Anyway, look at how it ended for him. Right? Look at how it ended for Hussein. So if you're the leader in Iran, I'm looking at that and I'm saying, I'm going to do everything that I can to get a nuke, and I'm not going to publicize it. I'm just going to keep it. I'm not going to use it. But I will never surrender to the West. I'm not going to be sodomized and dragged through the streets. I'm not going to have my children executed on public TV. I will do everything and sacrifice as many people in my country as I have to keep us from being humiliated like that. And if they use a nuke against us, we will then educate the world that we have one. It's what I would do. It's a position I would take. They don't need to use one. They don't have global aspirations. They don't need to nuke Israel. They have no need to do that. I mean, Israel in the grand scheme of things is not that big of a power in the Middle East. I mean, they're really not. They have 9 million people. Their GDP is not that substantial. They have no natural resources. They have no navy to speak of. They have no real land force to speak of. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, they're not a real threat. So Iran does not need to nuke them. What would be the real threat would be if Iran and Syria and a few other of these nations were able to come to some kind of agreement and peace and grow their economies and be productive. That's the real threat of them right there, honestly. Because if you think about it, you've got between, Syria, Jordan, if they get involved in it, Iran, Afghanistan, maybe a couple other states in the area, how much of the world's energy reserves are at stake there, right? You can determine the wealth of a nation by its consumption of energy, right? The more energy that a nation consumes, the more wealthy they are, right? The highest energy consumption nation on the planet is Qatar. The average Qatarian is the wealthiest person on the planet, right? That's how it kind of equates. So they have to purchase that energy. If you are the provider of the cleanest, most easily accessible petroleum-based products on the planet, you can flood the markets, you can control the markets because your market share is so much higher than everyone else's, and you're at peace and you have a collaborative environment in your area to where everybody's juking and jiving and trying to make money and live peacefully and do things. Well, then that's a real threat on the global scale. Because at the end of the day, money's going to talk. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why we're not bombing Saudi Arabia and Qatar.
So you brought up Israel, and their GDP and things like that, and so we've got there's a controversial vote that took place yesterday. Headline: This is from Zero Hedge. House narrowly passes $1.15 trillion defense bill that integrates U.S. military tech and supply chains with Israel. I've heard a lot about this. I mean, I've seen a lot of the chatter about this. And here is Congresswoman Lauren Boebert talking about why she didn't vote. Listen to this.
So I got a whole bunch of men trying to muscle me into voting for the NDAA.
Names. Who?
I don't know their freaking names. They're staffers.
They're staff.
All right, listen to my story. If you want my story, I'm going to give it to you. All right. So all these staffers are in there trying to get me to vote for the NDAA. I want to vote for the NDAA. Section 219 is still in there. It's a big tech swap between us and Israel. We don't do that with anyone. I understand in the past, we've given them money for the Iron Dome, and then they get to keep the tech and we don't get any of it back. So I understand that, but it's a big issue on the left and the right. And many of my constituents have reached out. They don't want this provision in the bill. Well, the White House doesn't want it in the bill. Secretary Hegseth doesn't want it in the bill. So I'm in the back waiting for a call from the secretary. I'm told that call is coming. I'm talking to someone underneath him, and I'm told the vote's going to stay open. They closed the vote. And so now I'm forced to talk to TMZ. While I do have an issue that we talked about off record, I don't want to be on camera this week, and I've been on camera more than any other week. I am talking out of the side of my mouth like a damn politician because my Botox hasn't caught up on this side. Maybe in 2 days, this side will catch up to the other side.
Sorry. Okay. All right.
There's our leadership.
Too much information there, I guess. I don't know. But so what are your thoughts on that? That was interesting. By the way, TMZ, the tabloid is in DC is actually providing some pretty good coverage right now about what's going on.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on that? This is a concept where, I mean, apparently we're not doing this with any other country, but we're integrating them. And this is kind of the background here is there's for the first time in a long time, there's a lot of people that are now questioning just, hey, why does it seem like our foreign policy and Israel's foreign policy is just baked in? It is baked in. Well, people are starting to ask that question and say, maybe I don't think that's such a good idea. There's people on the right that are asking honest questions, and I do believe they are honest questions and they need to be asked. And so now it seems like this is going to be more of a statutory. This is a statutory thing that is going to be very difficult to undo. I guess. What are your thoughts on that, Brian? As a veteran and
it's not just tech, because our own illustrious Tom Cotton has a provision in there to intertwine our intel agencies as well. So it's not just tech. But I'm going to paraphrase my favorite president in American history, George Washington. Be wary of foreign entanglements and do not have the United States of America get involved in them. Full stop. If you tie your horse to another man's saddle, you're going to get drug along. Mm-hmm. And it might not be where you want to go.
Yeah.
So I think it would be prudent for us to leave other nations to their own devices and handle their own problems and figure out solutions amicably with their neighbors in a way that's beneficial for all of them, right? Because that's what coming to the table and making a deal is. At the end of the day, you get something, I get something.
Yep, compromise.
And we do the same. And we start actually solving some of our problems. You know, why do I drive across the United States of America and constantly see people in homes that have tarps for roofs? Maybe they have plumbing, maybe they have functioning plumbing, maybe they don't. You know, maybe they have a car that is functioning, maybe they don't. You know, tons of problems. You drive through the Ozarks, drive through the Delta, you drive through southern Arkansas. I mean, we have real problems that we need to focus on, and I think that money would be much better spent on our infrastructure, our roads, our waterways, our bridges, you know, our citizens, you know, and stop taxing us so dadgum much. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, property taxes are freaking going up. My energy rates have gone. I did the math since I've retired. My electric bill has went up 103% in 5 years.
Good grief.
Since I've retired and came here. And you can extrapolate that over water. You can extrapolate that over insurance, which is more than that. I can't believe how much my home insurance has gone up, right? Why? Mm-hmm. Why is everything going up? The value of my dollar is going down, and we're spending billions and billions and billions solving other people's problems when we've got a mountain of them at home.
Yeah. There's this tweet here. The economy was once Republicans' strongest issue, not anymore, according to this political polls over on X. They reported on a Fox News poll now finds Democrats leading by 9 points, the party's best showing on economy since 2006.
This is actually under the gas prices that are being shown here. This is not reality. Can you pull up a map of Iran, where the conflict is, and expand to show the Red Sea with the Sinai Peninsula as well as the Strait of Hormuz?
I sure can. 1 second.
Because what we have done is we have robbed Peter to pay Paul, right? So in order to artificially suppress the price of gas, because that's what we identify as a strong economy on a lot of scales, is what you pay at the pump, we have flooded our market with our own strategic oil reserves, which are now, what I heard today, is less than 2 weeks from being empty. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but regardless, that's what we've been doing. Now, Yemen has entered a conflict with the Houthis, and they published today that they have denied access to the Red Sea via their choke point that they have, right? There's three choke points that control over 60% of the global energy reserves flowing out of the Middle East when it comes to petroleum products, right? Iran is proven that they are capable of hitting the Sinai Peninsula and effectively closing the Red Sea from the Mediterranean up there where Cairo is. See where Cairo's written, right?
Here's Cairo here.
So, right, the Sinai.
So Iran over here can hit this infrastructure.
They've proven that. Last night, there's a website that you can go to called S2 Underground is what it's called, and he has map overlays of all the targets that have been hit effectively by Iran and the United States and our allies in that area, but they've proven that they can hit that point. So that area is effectively closed as well too. So you have the north and south side of the Red Sea effectively closed now thanks to the Houthis, and then you have Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz. So all three choke points that make up 60%, more than 60% of the global petroleum reserves coming out into the global market are closed, and they're going to be closed for some time. So that price number that has been artificially suppressed because of us flooding the market with our strategic oil reserves is going to have a come to Jesus moment with reality. And Europe is going to get the brunt of it. And are we going to try to save them? Because it's going to cause a crisis there. And we are also going to pay a huge price at the pump very, very soon, because we're going to have to deal with that on the global market, especially when we can't flood it. And you know, the other part of that piece that a lot of people don't talk about is China specifically withdrew from their own strategic reserves to satisfy their market so that they didn't have to partake from the global reserves that was being pumped out from other areas to feed Europe and other areas that don't have a natural reserve or a strategic reserve to pull from, right? How long is China going to do that? I don't think they're going to do that for too much longer. And whatever oil is coming out of Iran, they're going to take, right? And they're going to make deals to get it in other areas, right? Which is going to just extrapolate that issue way on up. So this is not even started yet. And I heard one energy expert, I believe it was on the Redacted show yesterday, talking about how, in his estimation, in order to just get back to pre-Iran conflict levels is going to take at least 2 years, probably 5, right?
Wow.
So we haven't even yet tasted what it's going to be like with the effects of the energy issues from this war, because we've been flooding it with our strategic reserves. So we're at minimum 2 years away from relief of getting that supply back up. The market's going to react. It has to.
Well, I know it hit $100 a barrel today for at least a moment. I don't know what
that's
it is
the
now.
first taste, man.
Yeah.
I don't think 300 is outrageous.
Well, that's a global depression.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
think
that's what you're looking at, is a global depression. If you had $300 a barrel.
I mean, think about it. If we're 2 years away from it, right, and 60% of the market is now taken off the table, and everybody else is fighting for the rest of the 40%. I mean, if we're sitting at 100 right now, 300 is not out of the realm of possibility. And then let's say that this conflict causes them to start striking the actual refining facilities. Well, that's going to take a whole lot longer than 2 to 5 years to completely rebuild that infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're going to get smart. Some of these locations are going to try to build pipelines and overland transport that oil up north. And they're going to see it, and they're going to target it, and they're going to hit the refineries and keep them from being able to do that, right? And you also have the issue with the natural gas plants. And a lot of people don't realize that these pumps, these refineries have to continuously be in a state of motion in order to continue operating at their levels, right? You can't just shut them off. Mm-hmm. So when they can't get their oil out and they're forced to close these facilities, the impacts on that infrastructure are disastrous. So they're going to have to come in and repair a lot of that stuff. The longer this thing is shut down, the worse it gets every freaking day.
Mm-hmm. And so, you know, it's kind of odd, because you think that, and I know President Trump has said he's not worried about the midterms in terms of like, he's not going to make some sort of geopolitical decision based on, the midterms being positive or negative. But I'm over here like, and again, I get it. Like, I'm disappointed that we've decided to engage in this, I think, military conflict in the Middle East again. And while domestic issues, like, we can talk about all that, but fundamentally, at the same time, like, as a Christian, I really don't want the Democrats back in charge. Like, I can talk all along about maybe I haven't gotten everything I wanted out of this administration. Yes, that's true. But I really don't want these people. I don't want to have to live under their rule. And I think a lot of the redistricting that we saw after the Supreme Court decision came down is a last gasp effort by a lot of southern red states saying, we don't want you to live under your ideas. And then you had South Carolina that decided not to do it because their Republican leader said, well, we need a thriving Democrat Party. It's like, what are you even talking about, man? Like, not with maybe 60 years ago. Like, I kind of feel like, Brian, like the Republican Party now, as much as we were dogging on it earlier at the state level, it is a coalition party where people have different issues in different areas, and that's where the real battle takes place in the issue, on the issues that I think care to people. Maybe 50, 60 years ago, that coalition was split into two different parties, but it's certainly not now. And then I know we have the uniparty, but we can say all we want to that the Middle East war is a distraction. It's away from the domestic policies. We need mass deportations. We need we need a border wall. I'm glad that the border is secure or more secure than it was. We can say all that, but fundamentally, we could look back here a year from now and say, gosh, focusing on all this geopolitical stuff literally cost us control of Congress. And now
cost us our republic.
We literally could be saying that a year from now.
Absolutely could be. I see no positive from this at all, man. And I honestly don't know how I hope we make it out of it. I mean, but at some point, people are going to have enough stateside, and you don't have enough free stuff to give everybody to sustain them and keep them going, right?
Yeah.
And that's the situation that we could find ourselves in, because petroleum is not just gas in your car. Petroleum is involved in everything. Mm-hmm. Our fertilizers come from petroleum products and the byproducts of it. That's already an issue. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a crisis next year, next growing season. It's going to be an extreme crisis, right? The second, third order effects of all this stuff that's just going to be extrapolated. I try not to be a Debbie Downer. I always try to be optimistic and look on the positive side of it. But man, I seriously believe that we're in for some pretty hard times, man. The fourth turning is a real thing. And maybe that's just a phase of life that we're in. And God gives us these for whatever reasons to better ourselves and do what we need to do so that we can get to spend eternity with Him. And maybe this is our crucible that's going to sharpen our souls to get to where we need to be.
I've thought about that a long time. I think about, my grandfather that went away to war in World War II, or you think about these different, or my great-great-grandfather that was in the Civil War. And while you actually went to war, right, I never had the courage to sign up or enlist or anything like that. But what's going on right now, which is at minimum is a cold civil war in our own country, where information is key, next generation warfare, the psychological warfare that's going on, psychological operations going on all the time. I had that thought about it, I think maybe a couple of years ago. I was like, oh, well, this is my war.
Yeah.
And I'm older now. I'm 42, but for the Gen Alpha and the Gen Z, which are trending way more conservative, by the way, specifically Gen Alpha.
Love them.
I do too, because it's the first generation, Brian, that actually knows.
Yep.
Gen Z, they know that everything they do is under surveillance, and they've never known anything different.
Yep.
And so that is producing in them a lot of rebellion.
Yep.
And
rightfully so.
Yeah, and they've had it. But this is the war. The next war is an information war. Alex Jones was right, I guess.
The problem with this war and this conflict is, for the first time in human history, specifically in America, because we're the only ones that deal with this reality, is our population cannot support itself. We have the least capable population when it comes to self-sustenance. right? When we had the Great Depression, we had all these other downturns in America and these other crises and all this stuff. By and large, the American population could at least feed itself. They could maintain, they could do things.
Yeah.
You know, most of the American population today rely on just-in-time delivery food to their grocery store from a plant hundreds and hundreds of miles away that made its way to their grocery store before it spoiled for them to grab it, right?
Yep.
And what happens, you know, what happens if the cost of diesel goes up to $15 a gallon? You know, what does that look like?
Yeah.
You know, and then let's just say something that let's say that there's not enough fuel for the just-in-time delivery system that we have.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get some more chickens.
What does that look like? I mean, those are real questions that people should be asking themselves. Not to be paranoid, and because I'm not a prepper, I don't believe in that stuff at all. I'm just not that guy. Me,
You're of the opinion that if something happens, you're just going to take what you need.
well, not that I'm going to take it, but I would like to believe that I would be the type of person that would use my leadership skills and ability to get people together and just weather the storm and do it like men.
Yeah.
You know, all come together and realize, hey, we're about to lose some weight. We got the best diet plan coming in the world,
Yeah, we
baby.
do.
Look at the right side.
Here we go.
Here we go. Right? But how do we not starve to death? Right? We're going to starve, but how do we not starve to death together?
Yeah.
Right? And that's the type of person I'd like to be. I don't believe in living in fear. I don't believe in always focusing on the what if. I think it's smart to be prudent and take precautions. Right? I don't go into downtown Memphis unless I've got my little buddy with me along the way. Right? I'm not an idiot, but at the same time, I don't think it's imprudent to just kind of imagine what that scenario looks like and what it looks like for you and your family, and then be nimble, be ready to adapt, be ready to move. Be ready to have those conversations with your family members that are going to be very, very tough. Be able to explain to them that, the why behind stuff and get your family on board for tough times, because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
You never know what fruit that's going to produce, right? That hard time may force your family to be at the table with very little food on it, but so appreciative of what's there,
Right.
and willing to share it. And then sitting there over, some candlelight because maybe you don't have enough energy coming through the house, right? And playing a board game, and there's no music, there's no distraction TV, and you're having a real relationship and conversation with your family.
I will say this: that's another thing we could have got to. We're about to run out of time, but I do think the rise of AI will produce a neo-Amish and it already is with people getting rid of smartphones and things like that. There's going to be such. Like, let's assume that we get better and better with technology. There's going to be such a need to want a soul to soul, to want to know that you're communicating with somebody that's got a soul, and people are going to, it's a natural, they're not going to be able to suppress who we are as humans and the human interaction that we require. Some people will be in the slave system, but the neo-Amish is a real thing.
Yeah.
And we'll still have lights, but we're going to want to reject all of
You still
this.
have people wearing face masks and stuff out around after COVID. So
not
all of us are going to make it over.
Yeah, not all of us. But hey, man, I really appreciate it. It's been
Man,
great
loved
spending time with you.
Yep.
So
Same here, man.
Love to do it again anytime.
Absolutely.
So we
Let's do it.
got to make it a regular thing.
Let's do it.
So, all right.
I'm in.
Sounds good, folks. That's all the time that we have. I want to thank our sponsors: Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, Pet Club 24/7, Sherrod Chiropractic, and Healing Veterans Project.us. We'll see you tomorrow.